Good day, my name is Charles Kidega Ochaya. I'll be taking you through Introduction to Psychology. Now we start off by looking at attitudes, and the model that deals with attitudes and consumer choice is the elaboration likelihood model. Now this model aims to explain different ways of processing stimuli, why they are used, and their outcomes on attitude change. So the idea is we want to understand how, for example, buyers can be influenced in such a way that they buy a product or a commodity. Now, when a persuader presents information to an audience, according to the model, a level of elaboration results. Elaboration is the amount of effort that a listener has to use in order to process and evaluate the message. Remember it, then accept or reject it. So the model is proposing that we need to understand the level of effort. It's like someone receives information and then tries to process that information, and then there's a certain amount of effort they put in depending on their own needs and other factors. So the model is now trying to say we need to understand the amount of effort someone will put in or use in order to understand the message which you are trying to give him. The elaboration likelihood model on attitude has determined that when facing a message, people react by using either of two channels or a combination of both. And this reveals the level of effort they need to exert. People either experience high or low elaboration, and whichever of these will determine whether they use the central or peripheral root processing. And now a diagram I'll show you will explain this. The ELM model discusses two routes to understanding that to the way the person receives your message. The central route involves a high level of elaboration. In other words, the listener or the person who could buy your product will be very, very vigilant. They'll be looking for certain specific things. They'll be using logic. For example, if someone wants a car, he wants to buy a car, and is using central processing route, he will have very, very detailed information on maybe the number of kilometers the car has covered, the color, and other concrete facts about the car. Now, based on that, the person will choose the car. But if he's using the peripheral route, then he's looking at other things as well. You see, not only the central message, but he's also looking at other peripherals. Maybe you're using a very convincing presenter or a very attractive presenter telling them about the car. They will be more listening to the presenter rather than looking for those concrete facts about the car. So this model now has identified the two methods, the central route for processing and the peripheral route for processing. And by the way, the word peripheral means on the outside, on the edges. It's not the middle path, but it's on the outside. Okay, it's around and about the center. It is not really the central root one, so to speak. Now this diagram will illustrate that the central path will be looking at the costs. How much is that car that you are trying to buy? You see, how many kilometers has it traveled, the mileage? It will be, in this approach also, they will be looking at insurance costs. Is it very expensive? What are your premiums? How much do you pay per month? And then they will also look at the reliability, safety. Is it safe enough in case of an accident? What is the track record? Fuel consumption, how is it like? So these are numbers. You can put some numbers to that, and they'll be very, and based on those numbers, in the central path, you make your decision based on that. On the peripheral path, if someone is on that path or using this approach, they will be looking at color, how fast it is. They may not have concrete numbers on that. Sex appeal, how expensive is my neighbor also driving a similar car, and so on. So those are a bit hazy and they are not very concrete. You can't really put numbers to that. Okay, now we need to understand, in the process of decision making, we also need to understand the influence of external factors. We know that society has an impact on us, culture has an impact on people, and this can easily manifest in the family setup as well. So the family setup, the family structure, significant influence on people's behavior, right? Now, in that small group, which is the family, you'll find that in the family they would have common standards, common norms, the way they do things, they have beliefs, whether it's written or not written, spoken or unspoken, but those things are there in that group. It is what makes the group stick together or click. Now, groups have an opportunity, give an opportunity to individuals to learn and socialize. Okay, so there is something that someone gets from belonging to a group. And marketers, in their experience, bear in mind that the knowledge of the group influences the behavior of the members, and they will also take that into their marketing plans. When the marketers draw up their plans, targeting a certain group or targeting a certain segment, they make sure that they would understand the needs of that group, why people are in that group, what gives them a sense of belonging in that group. Okay, and then when they do their targeting, they are likely to succeed if they've measured the group properly. Now, on a side note, we want to also ask you, this is psychology. There's this question of whether indeed people have free will or not. At the beginning of this, we asked you that people indeed have free will. And I suggested that there might be situations where you do something without realizing that you have been driven by some other things from your background. So your background might matter. You see, if you've taken medicine, your behavior also changes. So whatever you do might actually be based on previous experiences. So the question of free will is sometimes a debatable issue, but it cannot be ignored. Alright, now let's discuss reference groups. What is a reference group? A reference group is a group of people who one refers to making buying decisions. So it can be like your peers, your friends. You ask them, hey, how do you like this? Let's go to the shop, let's go to the mall together, and so on. Their opinions matter to you. That is your reference group. You compare yourself with them. You want to belong to that group. You refer to them. Okay. Now the next sentence says that reference groups influence consumer behavior by building aspirations for the individual. Okay, so people aspire. You want to try and match or better your peers, people you work with, your friends, your family, and so on, your neighbors. You want on them, right? So the reference group matters. The people you hang out with matter in shaping your buyer behavior. These groups regulate the lives and standards for norms and conduct. Okay. In a family, influence is exerted by the members of the family in the purchase consumption process. So it becomes a collective decision-making process in a way, whereby the individual choices sometimes is sublimated to the needs of the group, whereby the group decision really matter over and above the individual choices. So reference groups affect consumers by imparting information and influencing consumers' buying. Now, reference group have, like I said, a great deal on conformity. Conformity means to try and change and become a member of that team. You conform. It means that you surrender some of your practices, your beliefs, so that you can fit in. Okay, by trying to fit in, you are conforming to the standards, the norms, what people consider to be normal, that group. Right, so the first paragraph there is about belonging to a group. If you want to belong, you have to conform to the standards of the group, their values and attitudes. Okay, and this is also important in terms of buyer behavior. When you're buying something, you belong to a football team. Well, you might all be wearing Nike at the end of the day. As a cons, they will not be part of that team. They really be a misfit in a way. They want to try and be homogeneous. So the more uniform the groups or group members having similar characteristics. So when it comes to conformity, the idea is to have the members be homogeneous. You all do same things, dress the same way, even behavior. You tend to behave in a similar way. Okay, you become a team. Now, pressures of buying, known as conformity pressures, makes one adhere to them, because you want to perform your buyer behavior will also be in such a way that it behavior. Another influence on behavior and choice, which is an external stimuli, is that of celebrity endorsement. Okay, a celebrity, someone who's well known, popular, maybe a movie star, can have an influence on some buyers, whereby if the celebrity says, this product is good, I use it myself, this is the beauty product that I use, then so many people will also follow because of the celebrity endorsement. Okay, marketers, they use a lot of that. They use celebrity to advertise perfumes, to advertise cars, and so on. So celebrity endorsement matters. They may also use experts and panels, like doctors, when they're promoting Colgate and other products. They'll use experts and professionals. They may use spokespeople, spokesmen, and opinion leaders as well. So all these do affect the behavior of consumers. These are external factors that will try to influence the internal thinking processes of the consumer or the potential. We now move on to information search and decision making. How do consumers from their side make decisions? The following have been identified, or this sequence has been identified. First, the consumer recognizes that they have a problem. There is a need. They need to fulfill a certain need. Thereafter, they start looking for information, maybe in catalogs or online websites, ask their friends. Now, once they have so many choices, so many potential places where they can buy from, they now need to evaluate and have to make a decision. From the 4 places they can go to, main mall or online or buy used ones from a friend, those are all choices that deal with. Then they have to make a choice from that. Thereafter, they buy the commodity they purchase, and then there's also a reaction that can happen after you've bought the product, and this is to say, are you satisfied with the product? Is it meeting your expectations? So this whole cycle has been identified by psychologists and experts in buyer behavior. The idea in modeling is that you want to try and understand where to interject your adverts, where to influence the buyer in the direction so that they can buy your product. You see, the belief is that once there's a problem along the way, maybe the potential buyer does not see a problem, does not find a need for a product, then they will not go ahead and look for information. And the buck stops there, they can't go any further. Now we detail all those steps. Here I was trying to say, problem recognition is very, very important. Is the first step. The person has to realize what the problem is. If it's winter, they know they need a jacket or a jersey, a sweater. After making that realization, they then move on to the next step, okay, to begin to look for alternatives. So it is in fact external stimuli, things like maybe weather conditions have changed suddenly, then you need a sweater, you see, or maybe you are hungry suddenly, then you realize you have to go and have a meal. So this stimulates or pushes someone to do something about it. When it comes to needs, another model has been developed. This model is by Maslow. It's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a very, very well-known model. He identifies a number of steps. Hierarchy means steps, from one step to the next, maybe to a higher step or an even further step. So from one level to the next level, from level 2 to level 3, and so on. Once you've dealt with level 1 needs, there will be level 2 needs. Once you've dealt with level 2 needs, there will be level 3 needs. So as you fulfill these needs at each stage, then you then move on to higher and higher needs. Okay, some of them are more immediate. Like here, as you can see, at level 1, the lowest level, these are basic needs, and they are physiological needs, meaning that things like food, safety. If you are not safe, you will not even think about food, you see. So if there's danger, there's a fire, the need for food immediately disappears. Once you've dealt with that safety, you're now out of the fire zone or the fire hazard, you begin to feel thirsty, obviously. The thirst will be there, you drink water. After that, now you start thinking of other things. So he has graduated it in such a way on a scale from the lowest to the highest level. Okay, at the highest level, it is the aesthetic need. Once you are now very comfortable with everything, you have houses and you've got, you have no worries, you begin to look for other things. Maybe you're looking for paintings, nice paintings. You're looking for beautiful surroundings and things like that. Things that are more abstract. They are not physical. So this is the gradation that Maslow came up with. Now, going back to that diagram of information search, you will see that when you are looking for information, after identifying a need, you now start looking for information. The search can be both internal or external. Now, internal search means you are trying to jog your memory. You are trying to recall your experience with that product. If it was a product that you bought, a laptop, then you start saying, oh, you once bought Samsung. How was the Samsung? How did it perform? How long did it last? You are searching internally. Okay. Externally means you go and ask other people, you find out about the products, you ask your friends, you check catalogs, you check online, and so on. Right? Now, knowing this information search dynamics even helps marketers in the sense of positioning or supplying information to the potential buyer. If the potential buyer relies too much on external search, then customer experience might not be so important. Now, when it comes to evaluation of alternatives, of course, the potential buyer or the customer will have to compare different products and different sources of where to buy the information from. Here he'll be faced with brands, different brands, maybe it's laptops, different laptops, and so on. Then he has to decide which is the best place to buy from. Okay. During this stage, as you can read there, consumers evaluate all of their products, all brand options, on a scale of attributes. Remember, when you're selling a product or you're promoting a product, you are actually selling attributes, some qualities, right? Some of which are intangible and so on. In order for a marketing organization to increase the likelihood that their brand is part of the evoked set, they need to understand the benefits that the consumers are looking for. So looking at things from the side of the potential buyer, what is it that they are looking for? Are they looking for class? Are they looking for design, shape, speed, or color, or what? What is it that they want? Mileage, durability, and things like that. We need to understand the customer's perspective. Now, the purchase decision is about buying when they actually have decided that they will buy the product. The consumer may form an intention to buy the most preferred brand because he has evaluated all the alternatives and identified the value that it will bring him. Alright, that is well and good. However, the final decision can still be interfered with. Right? You've decided to buy maybe you've decided to buy compact laptops, but because of the information you got from your friends or your group members or your family, you can be derailed from that. You may change your mind. The other thing that can interfere with buying a product is, for example, if suddenly the shop that you're supposed to buy from closes. You have no control over that, and they have no control over that. So the decision to buy will obviously be interfered with. Then finally, with regard to this cycle of how the buying happens, there is what they call post-purchase behavior. Post-purchase behavior. Okay, the customer purchasing experience of a purchase will influence whether they will buy the same kind of product again in future. In other words, is the buyer, the person who bought the product, is that person satisfied or disappointed? Right? Nowadays we try to, or many companies try to retain customers. They want customers to come back. Therefore, they'll give the customer a good customer experience, an unforgettable purchasing experience. In psychology, if you offer certain qualities of a product and the customer is disappointed, it's like you've cheated them. The feeling that that person gets is known as cognitive dissonance. It means you have frustrated them, you've created feelings of disappointment and anxiety. So, and that obviously stays with the customer for a long time. It is unlikely for them to be coming to your stores again to buy the products or a similar product. Finally, I give you an assignment. Outline, then explain Gert Hofstede's dimensions of culture. And then part B, critically evaluate Tswana culture based on the dimensions that you outlined above. That will be all. Thank you so much.